The sputtering coffee machine in the dingy break room was the final straw. Sarah had officially hit her lowest low, the kind of low that involves crying over lukewarm caffeine on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. "You okay there, sweetie?" Doris from accounting squinted at her, over half-moon reading glasses. Sarah sniffled, swiping furiously at her eyes. "Just peachy, Doris. Might have accidentally signed up for an interstellar dating service last night after one too many glasses of wine." Doris blinked. Then she blinked again. "Well, honey, that's a new one." 2 months later. Sarah sat in the sterile, gleaming lobby of star-crossed lovers, feeling a distinct flutter of panic. She'd chalked up the whole thing to a drunken mistake, until a sleek black envelope arrived emblazoned with a swirling galaxy logo. It included a plane ticket to the agency's headquarters. Here she was, about to go on, well, whatever this was. A chime sounded, and a tall, impossibly graceful woman with lilac skin and almond-shaped eyes appeared. "Miss Sarah Jones?" she asked, her voice a lilting melody. "I'm Lana, your personal matchmaking consultant. Shall we step into my office?" Sarah felt like she was being swept along by a current. Soon she found herself perched in an overstuffed armchair, sipping a hot drink that tasted of raspberries and starlight. Probably just some space-age herbal tea, she told herself. "Now, Miss Jones, let's discuss your preferences," Lana said, her long, iridescent nails clicking softly against a datapad. Sarah hesitated. Did she have preferences when it came to aliens? I don't know. Someone funny? Likes board games?" Lana giggled, a sound like wind chimes. "Those are excellent starting points." The first date. A being resembling a cross between a praying mantis and a walrus wobbled into the dimly lit restaurant. Its multifaceted eyes swiveled towards Sarah, and a translator device around its neck buzzed. "You must be my delightful date." Sarah felt her mouth go dry. Sarah managed a strangled, "Yes, that's me." Her date, apparently named Gurgle, an onomatopoeia she realised with mounting horror, lumbered over and plopped into the chair with a wet squelch. If this was star-crossed lovers' idea of a funny match, things were off to a terrible start. Gurgle stared at her intently for a long moment. Then a thin, forked tongue darted out and snagged a passing fly. It vanished down Gurgle's gullet with an audible gulp. Sarah's stomach churned, but she plastered on a polite smile. "So, Gurgle, I hear you're from—" Her mind desperately tried to recall the snippet of his profile she'd skimmed. "The moist swamplands of Xylar 4, Gurgle's booming voice echoed through the restaurant. Several tentacles, each ending in a tiny suction cup, waved enthusiastically. "And you, my dear, you have the most intriguing exoskeleton." "Exoskeleton?" Sarah choked, patting down her silk blouse and skinny jeans. Lana had floated over, her shimmery gown rustling. "Having a wonderful time, you two," she cooed, seemingly oblivious to Sarah's wide-eyed panic. Gurgle suddenly launched into a lengthy monologue about Xylarian mating rituals. It involved slime trails, synchronized regurgitation, and apparently a shedding competition. Sarah's polite smile had frozen into a rictus of horror. She glanced around desperately for an escape route. Surely setting her hair on fire would warrant an emergency exit. Just then the waiter approached, carrying a gigantic platter. On it sat a pile of squirming, luminescent grubs. "A customary Xylarian delicacy," Gurgle announced gleefully. A tentacle wrapped around Sarah, pulling her inexorably closer. "For us to share, of course." That was Sarah's breaking point. "Oh dear, look at the time," she yelped. "A work emergency, gotta run. Lovely meeting you." And with a speed she didn't know she possessed, she bolted towards the nearest restroom, hoping a quick interdimensional portal would miraculously open up inside. Back in the restroom, Sarah splashed cold water on her face, her reflection a picture of flustered despair. Well, she muttered to herself, that could have gone worse, I think. Digging into her bag, she found the crumpled brochure from Star-Crossed Lovers. Surely there must be some cancellation policy, right? Her heart sank as she scanned the minuscule print. Apparently, as an interspecies pioneer package member, she was committed to a minimum of 5 dates. 5. Sarah groaned. What have I gotten myself into? With a mix of resignation and a perverse curiosity for what fresh horror awaited, Sarah decided that facing the music was her best, or perhaps only, option. Emerging from the restroom, she spotted Lana, a picture of serene concern. Miss Jones, is everything all right? Sarah decided brutal honesty was the best course of action at this point. Lana Gurgle was, with all respect, a slimy, fly-eating, mating ritual-obsessed monstrosity. I can't do this. Lana blinked, her large eyes surprisingly human in their confusion. But Miss Jones, Gurgle is considered quite a catch on Xyla 4. His slime gland secretions are highly prized. The thought of slimy, prized secretions made Sarah gag a little. She squared her shoulders. Look, I appreciate the effort, but I don't think I'm cut out for intergalactic romance. Lana hesitated, her shimmery brow furrowed. Well, perhaps that's true, but you signed the contract. However, Lana leaned in, a conspiratorial gleam in her eyes. There is an alternative. Sarah frowned. An alternative, like cleaning up after the dates. Lana laughed her wind chime laugh. Oh no, my dear. An alternative source of clients. They're a bit more unorthodox, but some of our more adventurous humans find them intriguing. Sarah felt a flicker of trepidation mixed with curiosity. Unorthodox how? Lana's smile was enigmatic. Well, let's just say not all of our candidates are entirely corporeal. The word corporeal hung in the air like an ominous cloud. Sarah felt like she'd tumbled headfirst down some sci-fi rabbit hole, wondering if she'd accidentally ingested some of those space-age herbal teas. But hey, when it came to online dating, the terrestrial offerings were bleak enough. Perhaps this alien agency was the wild card she needed. Hit me with it, Lana, Sarah said, bracing herself. If you tell me it involves more slime, though, I walk. Lana's melodious laughter rippled through the lobby. Nothing quite so viscous, my dear. Shall we return to my office? I think a fresh brew of starlight tea is in order. Back in the plush cocoon of Lana's office, Sarah listened intently as the matchmaker explained this alternative clientele. It turned out some species existed primarily as energy forms, others as hive minds housed within biomechanical constructs, and a whole plethora of beings beyond human comprehension. We find the key, Lana said, her eyes twinkling, is to match on, let's say, vibrational frequencies instead of physical compatibility. You have a very open-minded aura, Miss Jones. Sarah wasn't sure if open-minded was the same as borderline desperate, but the idea was strangely intriguing. If she was destined for disastrous dates anyway, why not take a full swing into the bizarre? All right, Lana, Sarah found herself saying, let's get weird. What's the catch with these, unorthodox clients? Lana pursed her lilac lips. Well, communication can be tricky. Often we rely on specialized translators, mind links. It's more an exchange of concepts than a traditional conversation, and sometimes their forms of affection can be unexpected for humans. Unexpected affection? Sarah's mind buzzed with possibilities, both intriguing and horrifying. Lana's smile grew wider. Are you ready for a truly out-of-this-world experience, Miss Jones? Sarah took a deep breath. She came here for adventure, didn't she? Absolutely, she replied. I'm ready. Excellent, Lana chirped, her eyes flashing with excitement. Then let's start with a hive mind. They can be remarkably insightful, though their mode of communication takes some getting used to. A week later, Sarah found herself not in a restaurant, but strapped into a sleek, pod-like device in a specialized wing of the Star-Crossed Lovers' headquarters. This is a neural interface, Lana explained, her voice soft. It'll allow you to tap into their collective consciousness. Don't worry, it's perfectly calibrated for human neurology. Sarah eyed the pod warily. Perfect calibration or not, the idea of willingly plugging herself into an alien hive mind made her palms sweat. Then again, compared to slime trails and synchronized regurgitation, how bad could it be? Remember, Sarah, think in concepts and emotions, Lana said as she helped Sarah into the pod. They will respond in kind. This is a chance to experience something utterly unique. With a final reassuring smile, Lana closed the shimmering lid of the pod. Darkness enveloped Sarah, followed by a sudden tingling sensation along her skin. Then, it hit her. Not as a voice or an image, but a vast wave of interconnected thought. 1,000 minds, no, 1,000,000, all swirling and shifting around her. She sensed curiosity, anticipation, and a touch of what she could only interpret as amusement. Tentatively, Sarah reached out not with words, but a projected feeling of openness and a hesitant question within that vast network of consciousness. "Where are you from?" The response was immediate. "We are everywhere. We are nowhere. We are the stones, the stars, the space between. We are the network." Sarah gasped. The sheer scope of it all sent a shiver down her spine. It was both overwhelming and exhilarating. But how do I communicate with you? The hive mind responded with a sense of gentle patience, a swirling cascade of concepts rather than words. Think. Feel. We will understand. Sarah closed her eyes, pushing aside her doubts. She thought of her loneliness, her search for connection, and, most surprisingly, her amusement at the absurdity of the entire situation. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly within her. The hive mind rippled in response. Humor, a bridge. This is good. And just like that, a connection formed. For hours, Sarah and the hive mind exchanged thoughts, feelings, snapshots of worlds, and the occasional existential quandary. When the session ended, Sarah emerged from the pod feeling dazed yet strangely content. The hive mind had been vast, ancient, and utterly alien. But for a brief, shining moment, she hadn't felt lonely at all. Sarah spent the next few weeks on a whirlwind of dates beyond her wildest imagination. She shared a telepathic symphony with a sentient nebula, debated philosophical conundrums with a being comprised of pure mathematical equations, and even learned the intricacies of interstellar warp field navigation from a consciousness inhabiting an enormous starship. It wasn't always easy. Some of the concepts were mind-bending, and once an overly affectionate energy creature manifested a pseudopod in an attempt to, well, let's just say it was an interesting translation error. Yet, there was a thrill in the unexpected, a sense of true discovery with every interaction. One evening, as Sarah sipped a luminescent cocktail with a bioluminescent ocean-dwelling consciousness, who knew cephalopods could be such fascinating conversationalists, Lana approached. "Miss Jones, you seem to be thriving in this unconventional setting," Lana noted, with an amused glint in her eyes. Sarah grinned. "You weren't kidding, Lana. It's been bizarre, mind-blowing, and kind of amazing. Who knew dating outside my species would be so much better than dating inside it?" Lana chuckled. "Perhaps that's not surprising. Humans have such limited perspectives. Now I believe you have one final date on your contract, yes?" Sarah hesitated. This whole experience had been a wild ride, but a part of her missed, well, normal conversation. flirty banter over mediocre pasta, terrible jokes whispered in a crowded bar. Whatever happened to the classics? "Lana," she began, "I think I'd like to try my last date with someone a bit more familiar. Someone with 2 legs, 2 eyes, the whole humanoid bit." Lana's expression was unreadable. "Of course, Miss Jones. Is there anything else I should be aware of? Any traits you definitely want to avoid this time around?" Sarah laughed, the memory of Gurgle's mating rituals flashing through her mind. "Well, let's stick with a preference for personal space and a dislike of live insect appetizers." Lana inclined her head. "Very well then, leave it to me." The prospect of dating someone fully human seemed almost radical at this point. Sarah decided taking a step back towards normal, whatever that meant in this context, would be a good idea. After all, she still had a subscription to an Earth-based dating app that she'd completely forgotten about. "How about this, Lana?" Sarah proposed. "Find me someone adjacent to human. Quirky is okay, even a few tentacles are fine if they've got a good sense of humour, but let's stick with the familiar bipedal form." Lana tilted her head, her lilac eyes considering. "A semi-familiar request. I believe I can manage that. I have the perfect candidate in mind." 2 days later, Sarah found herself in a cosy botanical cafe, sharing a table with a nervous-looking gentleman sporting vibrant blue skin and 2 pairs of remarkably expressive eyebrows. "Krellin," he introduced himself in a soft voice with a lilting accent. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you." As the date progressed, Sarah discovered Krellin was a Xandarian botanist specializing in carnivorous plants. He was kind, a little shy, and laughed easily at her bad jokes. His extra eyebrows occasionally twitched independently, adding an extra layer of charm to his expressions. It was, dare she say, refreshing. The evening wound down, filled with easy conversation about exotic flora, the pros and cons of terrestrial coffee, and a shared amusement over the absurdity of their first attempts at intergalactic matchmaking. As they parted ways, Krellin, with the most adorable hint of a blush spreading across his blue cheeks, asked if he could call her. Sarah smiled. "Absolutely," she told him. "And maybe show me around your carnivorous plant collection sometime." Walking home, Sarah couldn't help but feel a lightness in her step. The whole star-crossed lovers experience had been an absolute rollercoaster, disastrous dates, mind-bending encounters, and moments of unexpected connection. And in the end, perhaps it had served its purpose, leading her right back to appreciate the simple joys of laughter, shared interests, and the quiet spark of something that felt right.